Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and now we're joined here in the studio by Engineer Sherine Naggar, the International Maritime Transport Consultant. Engineer Naggar, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Sir, now, first of all, before we start talking about the development that could be taking place in the facilities of the Suez Canal Authority and the economic zones, now, the Suez Canal, it has 4 economic zones, 6 seaports, all in line with the Egypt vision for 2030 of achieving sustainable development. Now, before we start talking about the development that could be taking place there, can you please give us just an overall review on the current situation of the Suez Canal Economic Zone? Everybody understood that there's been a lot of work that's been going on for the past few years, especially after the expansion of the canal itself. So update us on the overall view of the Suez Canal now.
Well, the Suez Canal Economic Zone and the Suez Canal are really hand in glove. You cannot separate one from the other, because the Suez Canal Economic Zone owns 6 ports, and all 6 ports are within the vicinity of the Suez Canal. The Suez Canal, of course, is providing a lot of support to the zone insofar as running the ports and the management of the ports and so on. And that in itself is essential, because a port is a border for a start, so it has to be very secure. And the second thing is the port is the gateway to the industrial zones in the Suez Canal Economic Zone. If we talk about the Suez Canal Economic Zone itself, a lot of effort and a lot of expenditure has gone into that. And it has been trying to achieve targets which they're getting close, but it is taking a lot of effort, especially with the continuous international disruptions that we are faced with, like the Ukraine war, for example, which is having its negative impact, not just on Egypt, but on the whole world. The economic zone is qualified for becoming a major industrial hub, not just in Egypt or the Middle East, but it qualifies to become a world hub. However, and not to be negative in any way, but we have also a lot of anchors attached to it. Anchors in the sense that they are dragging the development with the speed that we need. This is bureaucracy. And don't forget, we've had many years of poor management, of bureaucratic management, and so on. And all these laws are interfering one way or the other with the development of any project in Egypt, let alone the Suez Canal Economic Zone. And as I've always been saying, the Suez Canal is a giant that is tied with chains. Break those chains, and what you are making today will be pocket change compared to what you will be making if you break those ties and those bureaucratic links. A lot of, I mean, I'm not going to go through all the details, of course, because that's too much, but generally speaking, we still are lagging in some legislations that will free more the Suez Canal Economic Zone, and naturally the Suez Canal Authority as well. Suez Canal Authority has been actually very proactive in that respect, in the sense that they are talking now for quite some time with various shipping authorities, like, for example, the International Chamber of Shipping, where a delegation will be coming directly after the Bahrain festivities. And this delegation aims at developing a further cooperation with the Suez Canal Authority and all the authorities around. I'm focusing, and maybe I'm stressing on that more than I'm stressing on the Suez Canal Economic Zone, because the International Chamber of Shipping is a body that includes all shipping associations in the world. It has membership with various associations, with ship owners, with shipping authorities like, for example, Intertanko or Intercargo, and they are all linked together. Now, if this group succeeds in planning, which I'm sure they will, in planning a visit in October for an expanded delegation, that delegation will be coming to tell Egypt, this is what the world wants of you. If this is what you give us, you will be gaining billions, not millions, billions. And literally, it will be like that. I have done my homework in that respect, and I can see that Egypt, and in fact, a lot of people agree with me, both locally and internationally, that Egypt qualifies to become a world hub. In fact, one of the largest world hubs. Comparable to Singapore, to Hong Kong, to Dubai, to Gibraltar, to all those big places. But in fact, we're even bigger, because you're talking about 25,000 ships going under our nose every year. How many ships are really getting the service they should get? Little, not many. Why? Because there's bureaucracy attached to the supplies, to the cash to master, to all this. And naturally, this will immediately reflect on the ports, meaning the Suez Canal Economic Zone. So the idea is to free these ties, these bureaucracies, break those chains. And once this is done, Egypt will take off like a rocket. I dare say that, and I actually plead with His Excellency the President to intervene in person, because he has the vision, and he's a very good listener, and he has the vision and the authority, because you're talking about several authorities within the Suez Canal Authority, the maritime transport sector, the railway network, the Suez Canal Economic Zone. These are all different ministries, they are all different parties. There has to be an authority that controls the whole lot. And this authority will dictate or will impose upon each of them how to do things the right way, and will also have the axe that will break the chains as they go along. If the Suez Canal Authority, for example, screams, oh, wait a minute, I'm being hampered by this observatory or this body, supervisory body, and so on, and they're treating me bad, or I need to be out of their umbrella because the bureaucracy takes me too long before I can implement the project, then the only authorized person in the country to do that is the president. And so break those ties, break those chains, and watch what will happen to Egypt. But, it's a very important but. Be very careful that we are not taken or abused by foreign bodies, which is extremely important. I mean, there are certain laws that have affected the Egyptian authorities and the Egyptian national companies from becoming much bigger and from becoming much stronger than they are, because it allowed foreign companies to come and compete locally with them. Now, this services bodies, for example, services companies will always compete with you on your own land. They will deprive you from hard currency, and they will even reduce your Egyptian pound intake, your Egyptian pound profit. Being multinationals, they will always be able to manipulate a customer into getting their service in Egypt amongst many other places in the world. And this is a disadvantage of the Egyptian entities.
Yes.
This is one thing we need to address very carefully, because at the present time Egyptians generally are suffering tremendously from competition from foreign companies who are depriving the Egyptians from their own income. Now, if the Egyptian comes in and brings in dollars, the dollars will come and stay in Egypt. If he brings in Egyptian pounds, the Egyptian pounds would stay in Egypt. And on both, he will be taxed. But these free zone companies, they are hardly taxed anything. And this is where we need to balance. I mean, this is one disadvantage or many disadvantages or many setbacks we have at the moment.
Well, let's break it down bit by bit. First off, talking about the anchors and the chains that are sort of hampering or holding down the development process. Now, in his meeting, President Sisi, last Thursday, actually, with the Prime Minister and head of the Suez Canal Economic Zone and the Suez Canal Authority and everything, he spoke about working on the development, taking all these steps, overcoming the obstacles. And to overcome these bureaucratic sort of obstacles, you need some sort of political will, which is manifested in the President's meeting and willingness to people, we need to move ahead. We need to start maximizing on the potential of the industrial zones, the economic zones, the authority. So would that be enough? Would you expect to see real cutting off all the red tape and overcoming all these obstacles?
Well, not just the red tape we're talking about here. There are certain acts, there are certain laws that need to be changed in order to allow more flexibility. And this is very important for the Egyptian economy overall, not just the maritime transport sector. But the Suez Canal Authority has been as flexible as it can get. In the sense, for example, that during COVID crisis in 2020, the International Chamber of Shipping Secretary General was worried very much about the crew change. It was an international crisis that people were getting so depressed on board ships they cannot leave ships. No country will allow crew change. Some people were actually committing suicide on board ships. When he got into a conference call for the first time with the chairman of the Suez Canal Authority, I dare say, because I witnessed that personally, inside 2 hours, all the red tape in Egypt was broken. Literally inside 2 hours. And the chairman of the Suez Canal Authority promised that he's going to give all the facilities that is needed to facilitate the crew change everywhere in Egypt, especially in the Suez Canal. Suez Canal became the first place during the peak of the COVID crisis to exchange crew without any difficulty whatsoever. Okay, fine, if somebody has a PCR positive result, he gets isolated. But generally, no, everything was going very, very smooth. In fact, on one of the cases, I remember I personally had an encounter with the quarantine boats being slow in their speed, and when we complained to the Suez Canal Authority, they placed 8 additional fast boats to take the quarantine doctors to check the PCRs before they can disembark the crew. So this is how fast, and the Suez Canal Authority is realizing more and more the fast rhythm of shipping and the importance of time. And that is very important. And since then, actually, there has been a lot of cooperation between the Suez Canal Authority and the International Chamber of Shipping, and they are coming. Actually, they are being hosted by the Suez Canal Authority on the 10th of May to discuss further, and it will be further developing that cooperation. The cooperation is not going to just be for the Suez Canal Authority and the shipping bodies. No, it will reflect on all of Egypt. A lot of people will say that Egypt has the sky is the limit for Egypt's ambitions for maritime transport. And many other people say the sky is a low limit for the ambitions of Egypt. The potential in Egypt is phenomenal. And all it takes is just to take the right missile or the right rocket to get you up there.
Yes. Well, Engineer Naggar, talking about the development, there's been a lot of talk about really attracting the foreign investors to the industrial zones and the economic zone. Now, you've also warned about the attacks or the sort of manipulation or taking advantage of the foreign companies and the foreign bodies taking advantage of whatever overcoming obstacles Egypt might be doing for the development of it. Talking about the International Chamber of Shipping, talking about other foreign companies, how would you strike the balance between cutting all the bureaucratic sort of challenges and obstacles, and at the same time keeping in line or making sure that the international and foreign bodies and chambers and companies are not taking advantage of Egypt facilitating a lot of the development that could be taking place in these zones?
Well, first of all, the International Chamber of Shipping is not an investing body. It is a non-profit organization, which it is really a
mediation?
You could call it a syndicate of all people involved in shipping. And it acts as a coordinator. It's the United Nations of shipping, basically. I mean, to make it simple.
Yes.
The idea is not to stop foreign investors from coming. Quite to the contrary, we welcome foreign investors.
Yes.
We like to encourage them. However, what we are trying to say, or what I'm trying to say here, is to please, we need to be sure that the investor is coming to invest money in Egypt and not to embezzle money from Egypt. And this is a very delicate line that we have to observe very, very carefully. Now, bodies like the International Chamber of Shipping or any of its members are not really involved with the investment side of things. They are a body that says, okay, fine, now you're complaining about a certain problem in the Suez Canal, like I told you, for example, the crew change. Yes. We are going to approach the Suez Canal Authority on behalf of all our members, and they're going to give us a hand, which they did. So that is really the role of the International Chamber of Shipping. It is a diplomatic body that will negotiate between various authorities and the various members of the international shipping community. That is the International Chamber of Shipping.
So we're talking about the maritime shipping and transport companies?
Basically, yes. And that, of course, needs to be addressed by the locals, by the local authorities. Like, okay, for example, if somebody comes up and says with a project, look, I am going to come in and invest in this port, I'm going to build up a port, I'm going to build up a terminal or whatever, then we have to know, okay, is he going to be able to bring in dollars or take out dollars, for example? We are desperately in need of dollars. We need to keep our reserve up. So this is something we need to be very careful with. And if there's going to be an outflow of hard currency, then we don't want it. Or we have to restrict it. That is exactly what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to say that we should attack investors coming to Egypt. Quite to the contrary. No, we should invite them. But we need also to discipline them so far as they do not take advantage of attraction laws in order to deprive the Egyptian budget from hard currency. That is the general idea.
Yes. Well, there's a lot of talk about localizing the industries and localizing the technology, possessing the know-how, the industrial capacity of these zones. Now, how far are we from achieving these sort of goals? And when we talk about localizing technology and industries, are we talking about certain kind of industry, or is it are we talking about industries that can span through many different sectors?
Well, localizing technology and localizing industrial technology specifically has been quite successful in the past few years. To give you an example, cement. Egypt is becoming a major exporter of cement. Phosphate rock or phosphate fertilizers, diammonium phosphate fertilizer, for example, phosphoric acid. These were commodities that were unheard of 10 years ago. Today, we are moving in multiple hundreds of thousands of tons are moving on the export side, they're moving out of Egypt. They are bringing in dollars. And that's exactly what I'm saying all the time. Now, you should work more on your exports. Unfortunately, this has not much to do with the Suez Canal economic zone, although the southern part of the economic zone, which is the Suez area, it's all concentrating on heavy industries like iron and steel or cement or fertilizer, but it is not as big as the potential on the Golden Triangle, for example, which is much, much bigger. That's on that particular bulk side. The northern part of the economic zone is more focused on more what you call more environmentally friendly industries, such as car assembly, pharmaceuticals, textiles, this kind of industries that are not really heavy as such. I mean, talking cement is a heavy industry, steel and iron steel, phosphates and this stuff. This is heavy industries. That's more concentrated on the southern end of the Suez Canal economic zone, whereas the northern end is different.
Yes. Well, when we talk about the development taking place there, are we talking about the development of the actual infrastructure of these zones, the facilities being provided there, or does it also include the vocational training of the labor and the workers that would need to know how to work and be ready for application according to the international standards for all the seaports that you've mentioned, like in Asia and different parts of the world, because we're trying to reach a good sustainable development target by 2030. So is it about just the infrastructure and the facilities and getting in investment, or are we also talking about improving and training our own employees?
Well, I mean, from my personal perspective, I would say we are not attracting investments and not attracting foreign countries to come and work in Egypt in order to import labor. It has to be coming from Egypt. The Egyptians have started this on their own initiative, and if you today look at the construction workers, for example, it's becoming quite difficult to find construction workers because they're consumed everywhere, in Al Alamein, in the new capital. These projects have absorbed a lot of unemployed youngsters, youth, who will eventually gain experience by working in those developments, and they are being trained by the Egyptians. Now, the idea is for a foreign investor, say somebody like XYZ manufacturing car assemblies, for example, they should attract the engineers. Okay, fine, they should also seek to keep their own international standards at a certain level, but at the same time, they should train a part of the labor to become professional in that business. So in other words, if I have a car assembly, that car assembly is dependent on, at the beginning, say 3, 4, 5 years on, call it Korean or German technicians. After a couple of years, instead of 50%, they're going to be 15%, 20%. And the reduction will come that way, in such a way that, okay, fine, at the end of the 2030 or by 2030, oh, there's a car assembly. Yes, the car assembly is run by Egyptians. Well, these Egyptians have been trained by Germans or been trained by Koreans or by both. And this is the sense of attracting investment. You're not just investing money in a project. You are investing money in human beings. You're investing money in manpower, which is really the real capital of any country. And that is what we should focus on. And I think this is already being done. This is being done in many sectors of the business. I mean, you go and see, for example, pharmaceutical companies. Most of them are run by Egyptians. A lot of, as I said, construction companies and so on, designers. Okay, fine. They take the designs from an Italian or a French or a British designer. But at the end of the day, who implements this design? It is all Egyptians, from engineers to hard laborers, to the people who actually bring in the block and put some concrete and put another block on top of it. That's the idea, is to train a level from the bottom all the way up. And you just have to start from the bottom, because this is where it goes. You gain experience by knowing everything, from details from the deep bottom all the way up. And to do that, you must impose, and this is a must. This should be a must. It should be a paramount condition. If you are going to come to invest in Egypt, you must have a training program for Egyptian citizens, for Egyptian youth. Don't forget that Egypt is more than 50% youth than the population. So they need to be trained, they need to be educated, not educated in the sense that they can read and write, but educated into their professions, whatever the profession might be. And that is the real target for lifting the cultural and the educational and the professional know-how locally, rather than saying, okay, fine, I want to import know-how from X country or know-how from Y country. and by the time we finished, oh, but yes, we have not learned anything.
Yeah.
And this has been evident, and I dare say it again, in the Suez Canal. In 1956, we had the Suez Crisis, and the Egyptians were told by the French, we are going to take away all our pilots, and your canal, you can just keep your canal, use it as a fishing pond. Nobody's going to come through. The canal did not stop for a single day. Why? Because there were Egyptians, there were Egyptian officers who got themselves involved, and they went straight in, taking a gamble, taking a very big risk, but they managed, and they were determined to get this canal moving all the time. The second time this happened was in 2011, 2012, where we had shambles all over Egypt. The riots, terrorism, explosions, whatever. How would you say the Suez Canal functioned, and what was the delay in the Suez Canal? How was that affecting the Suez Canal? Would you know that? I'll tell you. Zero. Not 1 hour's delay throughout the crisis, where the whole country was in shambles and was on fire. Not a single ship lost 1 hour throughout. And it was known for a fact that the Suez Canal Authority is so well protected that if a mosquito dares to come near a ship, it will connect a missile. So this is what I'm saying. Here we are. These are the Egyptians where they really want to do something, and they do it very well.
Yes.
And this is the two incidents where I have witnessed, well, I did not witness 56 because I was too young, but you know, from history, you know.
Yes.
And then this, the 2011 crisis was definitely affecting the entire country except for the Suez Canal. And maybe that is why we survived the crash, because currency was coming in all the time.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Egyptians are also planning on allocating areas and zones for producing green hydrogen in the Suez Canal as well, talking about environmental industries, talking about green energy at a time where energy is becoming a very hard currency to find in light of all the political turbulences and developments taking place around the world. Let's check out this report, and we'll be right back.